Chapter 9: The Master's Forgery. The salt-laden wind of the Hudson River tore at Nancy's hair as she and Miss Marple raced toward the edge of Pier 42. Behind them, the tires of the black sedan shrieked against the cobblestones, the engine a low, predatory growl in the darkness. Nancy gripped the small wooden crates against her chest, its edges digging into her arms. "Down here, Miss Marple, behind the cargo pallets," Nancy whispered, pulling the elderly woman into the shadow of a towering stack of industrial crates marked for Liverpool. The sedan skidded to a halt a dozen yards away. The man in the tuxedo and the scarred courier leapt out, their silhouettes sharp against the flickering yellow harbor lights. "Check the water's edge," the tuxedoed man barked. They couldn't have gone far with that weight. While the pursuers moved toward the slipway, Nancy set the crate down on a flat barrel. "We have to know, Miss Marple. If this is just another decoy, we're risking our lives for nothing." Using the edge of her sturdy pocket knife, Nancy pried at the lid. The wood groaned and gave way with a sharp crack. Inside, nestled in layers of acid-free tissue paper, lay the canvas of "Midnight over Manhattan." Nancy clicked on her small flashlight. The painting was breathtaking, a swirling, moody masterpiece of cobalt blues and electric yellows. It looked perfect. It looked authentic. But as the beam of light swept over the lower right corner, Nancy's breath hitched. "Look at the brushstrokes on the artist's signature, Miss Marple," Nancy whispered. "They're almost too precise. They lack the fluid motion of the rest of the skyline." Jane Marple leaned in, her eyes narrowing as she peered through Nancy's magnifying glass. "It is very clever, like the lacework of the young Miller girl back in St. Mary Mead. She could copy any pattern in the world, but she always forgot that real lace has a heart, a small intentional imperfection that shows it was made by a human hand, not a machine." "It's a forgery," Nancy realized, her voice a mix of shock and admiration. "But a brilliant one. Julian Vane didn't just steal his painting, he created a series of high-quality copies to sell to multiple buyers simultaneously. He's been running a global art racket." "Which means," Miss Marple added, pointing toward the dark, massive ship of the freighter The Morning Star, docked at the end of the pier, "the real masterpiece isn't in this crate at all. It never was. Julian Vane and Arthur Sterling are playing a game of shells and peas, Nancy. While everyone chases the stolen copies, the original is being moved in the most inconspicuous way possible." Nancy looked at the freighter. Crewmen were hoisting a final net of supplies onto the deck. "The portfolio!" Nancy cried. "Sterling told us it was empty, but he was still carrying a flat leather case when he left the club. He wasn't wearing a peacoat to hide his identity. He was wearing it to hide the portfolio strapped to his back." "Human nature, dear. The more you tell people something is gone, the less they look for it right in front of them." Suddenly, a heavy hand clamped down on Nancy's shoulder. She spun around to find the tuxedoed man standing over them, his revolver glinting in the moonlight. "You're right, girl," he sneered, reaching for the crate. "It is a forgery, but it's a forgery worth $50,000 to the right collector in Marseille, and dead witnesses don't give art lectures." He raised the weapon, but Miss Marple didn't flinch. She simply looked past him toward the harbor entrance. "I believe, sir, that in the city of New York one should always be wary of quiet nights. They usually precede a very loud arrival." At that exact moment, a brilliant white searchlight cut through the fog, pinning the three in a blinding glare. The siren of a harbor police launch wailed, a deafening sound that echoed off the warehouse walls. "NYPD, drop the weapon!" a megaphone boomed. In the confusion, Nancy didn't hesitate. She grabbed a heavy coil of docking rope and swung it with all her might, catching the tuxedoed man across the knees. As he tumbled, Nancy looked up. The freighter was beginning to pull away from the dock. "He's on that boat, Miss Marple! We have to stop the Morning Star!"